Hello, Barus and all of my friends. My name is Rafli with student ID number 211-202-1082. Today, I will be presenting about serving dessert and making coffee. Here are the table of content of today's presentation. So, without further ado, let's begin the presentation. Let's start with the definition. Serving dessert is an act of presenting and providing a sweet dish to a guest at the restaurant or dining establishment, typically occurring towards at the end of the meal. This is often followed the main course and it is intended to conclude the dining experience on a pleasant and sweet note to the customer. Now, when serving a dessert, we need to pay attention to a few important details or things. Those are, first is presentation. But before that, let's see the picture number 1 and number 2. I believe most of you would agree that picture number 1 is more appealing than picture number 2. That because of how the dessert is being presented. When serving dessert, it should look visually appealing to the customer, often plated with artistic way to enhance the appearance of the dessert. These include garnishes, sauces, and other decorative elements to make the dessert more appealing to the customer. Second is about description. As a server or waiter, we are expected to be well informed about the dessert and able to give the customer detailed description about the product or the dessert. This includes information about the detail of the ingredients, how the dessert is being prepared, and any distinctive feature or qualities of the dessert. Third is timing. As Bu Baru said, timing is very important in food and beverage business or industry. In this case, desserts are served after the main meal. True, they can be enjoyed as their own. Timing is essential to deliver dessert at the perfect moment, allowing customer to enjoy it fully without feeling being rushed or without rushing their dining experience. Lastly, let's talk about customer satisfaction. So, serving dessert is about creating an enjoyable dining experience for the customer. Servers should be attentive to the guest needs and preference, ensuring the dessert is delivered promptly and meet their expectation. So, customer is satisfied when the dessert is being served. Now, let's move on into the key vocabulary in serving dessert. We have verbs, nouns, and expression. Verbs, which include display, melt, prepare, suggest, and garnish. And as for noun, we have cake, dessert, specialty, tart, and portion. And as for expression, we have are you ready to take your dessert, ma'am? Okay, and the next one is I recommend you today's specialty or today's menu. And but third, for the last is your dessert, madam or sir. Okay, after that, let's talk about the step-by-step how to serve a dessert to a customer. The first thing that you need to do is ask the customer if they are ready to take order the dessert after the main course. The second one is suggesting the main house specialty to the guest or if ask them if they want something else from the menu. Third is write the guest order and take it to order to the kitchen or the cold kitchen. It is important to take note that if the guest has a special preference or allergy, we need to take a special note in our order menu form. And fourth is deliver the dessert to the guest as soon as possible in order to avoid ruining the presentation of the dessert. Fifth is describe the dessert to the guest before finishing the service. And lastly, let the guest enjoy the dessert. Okay, that's all about how to serve a dessert to a customer. After understanding how to serve a dessert, we also need to understand the do and don'ts when serving a dessert. Let's begin with the do. First, smile and greet the customer warmly. By smiling and greeting the customer, we can create a welcoming atmosphere as we approach the table to serve the dessert. Second is check for any allergies or dietary restriction. As I said before serving, ask if the customer have any allergies or dietary restriction in order to avoid incident in our establishment. Third is present the dessert with enthusiasm. By showcasing the dessert with excitement and describing its flavor and presentation, it helps to appeal to the customer and improve their dining experience. Fourth is about ensure the dessert is served at the right temperature. This is important too because some dessert may melt in incorrect temperature or ruining their presentation. So it is important to ensure the dessert served at the correct temperature. Now let's move on into the don'ts. First is don't rush the customer. Let them enjoy their main course at their own pace without hurrying them to finish their main course so you can serve them a dessert. And second one is don't neglect the presentation. Like I said before in the first material, presentation is very important when serving a dessert. So make sure the dessert is plated nicely and presented attractively. Third is don't assume the preference. Always ask for the customer preference instead of assuming what they like or they might dislike. And fourth is don't forget to check their satisfaction. Check back after serving the dessert to address any issue or provide additional assistance to the customer. And lastly, don't neglect cleanliness. Keep your hands and serving utensil clean while handling dessert to maintain hygiene standard and also maintain the perfect dining experience for the customer. Now for the second topic, making coffee. Before, my friend already talked about type of coffee, but let me remind you a little about the type of coffee. Here are I have four pictures about type of coffee. First is espresso. Espresso is a rich, bold coffee with concentrated flavor brewed by forcing hot water through finely ground coffee beans. Second, we have Americano, a smooth and slightly bitter coffee made by diluting espresso with hot water to create a milder taste. Third is long black. Long black is a strong coffee with a velvety texture created by pouring a double shot of espresso over hot water. And fourth, we have cappuccino. Cappuccino is a creamy coffee with a balanced flavor consisting of equal parts of espresso, steamed milk, and milk foam, often sprinkled with cocoa powder. Here are some more pictures about type of coffee. We have latte. Latte is a smooth and milky coffee with a subtle taste of espresso, made with espresso and steamed milk topped with a thin layer of milk foam. Second, we have cold brew, a refreshing a smooth coffee with a milder taste and lower acidity brewed by steeping freshly ground coffee beans in cold water for extended period. Usually it takes 12 or 24 hours. And third is mocha. Mocha is a decadent coffee with a rich chocolate flavor made by combining espresso with steel milk and chocolate syrup, topped with whipped cream. And the last one is flat white. Flat white is a creamy and velvety coffee with a strong espresso flavor, made with espresso and microfoam milk, creating a smooth texture and balanced taste between espresso and microfoam milk. After knowing type of coffee, we also need to understand or know about our machine. So let's try to understand each part of coffee machine. Here are the part of coffee machine, starting with bean hopper. The bean hopper is where you keep your fresh coffee beans until it's time to grind them. It is usually on top of coffee machine and you can often see through it to check how many beans are left in the bean hopper. Second, we have Group head. Group head is like a gateway for water to your espresso machine. It's where the hot water come out and meet the coffee ground. If it is not working properly, your coffee won't be brewed evenly. Third, we have portafilter. The portafilter is the part of the espresso machine that hold the coffee grounds. It looks like a spoon with a basket attached to it. You can remove the basket to clean it. And next is boiler. The boiler, as its name, heats the water in your espresso machine. It is essential for making hot water needed for brewing espresso and steaming the milk. Next is steam one. Steam one is a metal pipe on the espresso machine that releases steam. It used to steam and froth the milk for drink like lattes and cappuccino. Next is pressure gauge. Pressure gauge show how much pressure in the water is under your espresso machine. Higher pressure usually means better espresso, but it depends on how the barista make the espresso. Next is, and the last one is drip tray. Drip tray is where you put your coffee or cup when you are pouring the espresso. It's best if it is adjustable, so it can fit different cup size and ensure your espresso pour at the right height without spilling any espresso to the floor. Okay, that's all about the coffee machine anatomy. After you understand the anatomy of coffee machine, now let's talk about the main topic, how to make a coffee. First thing that you need to do is prepare the coffee machine. Second is fill the water reservoir with water. And third is preheat your machine. And fourth, insert the coffee filter and add coffee ground into portafilter. And fifth is brew the espresso. After you finish brewing, next is prepare the milk. Next is steam the milk with the steam one. After that, after finishing steaming the milk, combine the espresso that earlier that you make with the steamed milk. Therefore, you're creating a cappuccino. But before you serve the cappuccino, add cocoa powder or cinnamon. Then serve the cappuccino into the customer. But remember, after you finish using the machine, clean the equipment. Okay, for more detailed explanation, let's watch this video.
I'm going to show you how to make a cappuccino. A cappuccino is traditionally between 5 and 6 ounces. You have your shot of espresso, some milk, and then foam on top. Usually it's going to be in thirds, which is 2 ounces of espresso, 2 ounces of milk, 2 ounces of foam, but somewhere around there is good. Officially they say between 1 to 2 centimeters of foam on top, but there are many different interpretations. So I'm going to start off by pulling the shot, steaming the milk, and then pouring. Okay, so we have our espresso, we have our milk. Now, since I've let more air into the milk on this cappuccino, you can do a little bit extra texturing, which is just swirling it around. Even give it some side-to-side shakes to incorporate the foam into the center. And sometimes if you've added just a little bit too much, you can pour about an ounce off the top. All right, and then just pour. And that is a delicious looking cappuccino.
After understanding how to make a coffee, in this case cappuccino, let's continue about this material. Now let's move on into the key vocabulary in making coffee. In making coffee, similar like before, we have verb, noun, but in this thing we have also important things to understand. As for verb, we have attach, fill, pour, press, and sprinkle. As a noun, we have button, filter, grinder, steam, and jug. In important things, we have strong. Strong referring into the state of coffee taste. There are strong flavor, mild flavor, and also light flavor. And froth referring to milk that contain many small bubbles. And demiste is a cup that often used to hold cappuccino. And last one is coffee grinder, referring to a tool to grind coffee beans. And for the last material, we will talk about do and don't when making coffee. Let's start with the do. First, use fresh coffee beans. For the best flavor, always use freshly roasted and ground coffee beans. Second, measure correctly. Ensure the right balance of coffee grounds and water by measuring correctly for your preference, strength, and amount of coffee. Next is about use filter water. Use clean and filter water to avoid any impurities that could alter the taste of your coffee. Next is preheat your machine. Let your coffee machine fully heat up before brewing to ensure the best extraction. Next is clean regularly. Keep your coffee machine clean by regularly washing the water reservoir, filter basket, and carafe to prevent build up and maintaining freshness. Lastly is grind coffee beans correctly. By grinding coffee beans to appropriate size, it can maintain and also uh, creating the perfect coffee. For example, you use fine grind for espresso machine and medium grind for drip coffee makers. Now let's move on to the don't. First, don't use stale coffee beans. Avoid using old or stale coffee beans to prevent a flat or dull tasting coffee. Next, don't use dirty equipment. Regularly clean your coffee machine to avoid off flavor caused by old coffee oil and residue. Next is don't use hot water from the tap. Refrain from filling the water reservoir with hot tap water to prevent mineral buildup and maintaining the taste and machine longevity. Next is don't overfill the filter. Avoid overfilling the coffee filter to prevent over extraction and bitterness. Next is don't tempt the coffee ground for drip machine. If you are having drip machine, you don't need to temp or compress the coffee ground. This step is only necessary if you having espresso machine. Next is don't leave coffee on the heat plate. Avoid leaving brew coffee on the heat plate for too long, as it can develop a burnt taste. Transfer to thermal carafe if you are not drinking immediately. Next is don't ignore the water quality. Use filter water to prevent scale buildup in your machine and maintain your coffee taste. Next and the last is don't use the wrong grind size. Ensure you are using the correct grind size for your brewing method to avoid under or over extraction. Okay, that's all for my material. Thank you for listening to my presentation. If you have any question, comment, or suggestion about my presentation, feel free to write it down below. And see you next time. Goodbye.